We're kicking off debate week on Greater Boston tonight with what was supposed to be a conversation between all three Republican candidates hoping to unseat Senator Elizabeth Warren. Instead, we're down to one. After numerous emails and calls, John Kingston finally responded on Friday to say he would not participate in today's debate. And State Representative Jeff Deal told us from the beginning he would only take part if all three candidates attended. And by the way, I should note, I believe this is the first time in the 20 years I've been doing this that any candidate has refused to appear for a debate. So tonight we're joined by Beth Lindstrom, former Secretary of Consumer Affairs in the Romney administration. Beth, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
A couple of minutes ago, we were talking about a CBS poll that says 83% of Republicans approve of how the president has handled racial issues. Are you part of the 83%?
I have distanced myself from the president last year when I first announced to run. As soon as I made my announcement, I disclaimed his comments on Charlottesville. I said, you know, when something like this happens, people look to the president to calm the tides, and he didn't do that.
So would you not have been in the 83%?
Not on that topic. No.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you have said repeatedly when you've been asked about Donald Trump, including to me and Marjorie Egan on the radio, I'll work with him when he's right. I'll oppose him when he's wrong. Give me a couple of high-profile examples that fit in each category for you, please.
Well, I agree with him on tax reform. I agree with him on what's happening in North Korea. I think those things are historic. So he deserves some credit there. I disagree with him on some of the spending and some of this personal behavior. I say I disagree on the 3 T's, tone, temperament, and Twitter. But you know.
Let's talk about taxes for a second. Factually, it is true they tilt towards the rich. And a report came out last week saying that already 19% has been added to the deficit. Republicans don't like deficits, at least I didn't think they used to, as a result of the tax cuts. So
sure, I think there's a lot of moving parts. Well, I'm a small business owner. I'm a mom. I'm a small business owner. I've seen the benefits of these tax cuts. I mean, you saw even the head of Sam Adams Beer the other day saying, with this decrease in a corporate tax, I'm able to be competitive, you know, in a global basis.
Not exactly a small business, I should say. He's done pretty well for himself.
You know, that's who creates jobs, and I think you need to remember that. You know, government doesn't create jobs, people do. And so you have to have an environment so that those jobs can be created.
So if it turns out that the president, they floated an idea that without any congressional approval, he would cut taxes another $100 billion for the wealthiest Americans. If the first $1.5 trillion did good things, would you support him cutting another $100 billion for rich Americans?
Well, I would have to see it in front of me. First of all, I have to see what's in front of me because, you know, I'm not going to speculate on anything. But I want to turn back, if I could take a minute about this whole debate thing, because you know, it's really depriving voters of the opportunity to hear more from us and see us on, you know, on this national stage and how we conduct ourselves in Washington. And I just want to point out the big differences in between myself.
What are they?
Well, Jeff Deal, he's a career politician, and actually today I sent him a letter because career politicians say one thing and do another. And he actually, I said, you need to, he railed against a pay raise, and then he took it.
You worked in and around government for years yourself. Aren't you a career
political activist? No, I'm a citizens activist. I've never voted.
You were head of Consumer Affairs, I just said.
I'm not a politician. Scott Brown's campaign. I'm not a politician. I didn't vote. I've never been elected. I'm a mom and small business owner. John Kingston's problem is that he stepped out of the party and now he's trying to run as a pro-Trump. So there's some big differences, and unfortunately voters are not being able to see that.
Well, again, we agree with you. We wish they were all here. The other thing you said good things about the president on, I think you said it to us the other day, is on the regulatory front. But the first thing that comes to mind is Clean Power Plan. Get rid of that. Get rid of the fuel efficiency standards. He's begun that process. Get rid of net neutrality. Are those the kinds of regulatory moves that you think are good ones?
When I say I agree with him on some regulation, it's some deregulation.
How about those?
Well, yeah, those ones I think, you know, we could have some discussions on.
Well, let's have them. How about his environmental? Were you happy with what he's done on the environment?
I think, well, I vote for clean air. So, but you have to have that balance. As former Secretary of Consumer Affairs, you have to balance consumers against businesses.
So you wouldn't reject what he's done in the environment out of hand?
Let me see it in front of me. I don't have it in front of me.
If he were to run again in 2020, which I assume is pretty likely, based on what you've seen in the first 2 years, would he get your vote?
So if he's the nominee, he would get my vote based on the economy. I mean, you know, I go back to, you know, the best social program is a job. And it takes people to take risk and to create those jobs. So you have to have that environment. So if the economy is doing well, people have more money in their pockets, 80% of the people in Massachusetts have a benefit, then yeah, if the economy is going good, then I think that's the primary
again,
focus.
you talk about the economy and tax cut. $1.5 trillion. If you had the choice between the $1.5 trillion primarily going to the wealthiest Americans or the bulk of the $1.5 trillion going to middle-class Americans, middle-class people in Massachusetts?
But see,
would you have chosen the president's plan?
But what you're doing, Jim, is you're saying, I want my piece of pie to be bigger than your pie.
Exactly
rather than having the pie grow for everybody.
No,
What's wrong with the pie growing for everybody?
But you're a legislator. I'm saying, if you
This is
had
a good
had
debate,
a vote,
right?
if you had had a vote, would you have targeted the bulk of that $1.5 trillion to the middle class, or targeted the way Donald Trump did?
I would like to see working class people get the breaks they deserve.
Did they get them in this tax bill?
Well, I think that they've got some benefits. They've got some benefits.
Trickle-down benefits.
Well, and if they are trickled down and they're getting benefits that help them, then why is that a problem?
I didn't say it was a problem. I'm asking you which you would have preferred. Like, can we talk about two things? You left two things hanging, not Chads, but other things on the radio the other day with this. You're pro-choice. And we talked
Roe
about
versus Wade, yes.
Pardon me?
I support Roe versus
Wade.
Right,
and you said that if you were in the Senate when Kavanaugh was testifying, he would have to answer questions about where he was on Roe v. Wade. I then went on to ask you, if he refused to answer questions, would that cause you to vote no on him, and you didn't have an answer?
So,
what is the
no,
answer?
I didn't. And I think you shouldn't have a litmus test on any issue.
So wait a second.
Because if you
let me just be clear. If he refused to answer the questions...
Well, first of all, I don't think he's going to refuse.
Many justices in waiting refuse to answer questions, saying, I don't want to prejudice anything, may come before the court. If he refused to tell you what his position was on Roe v. Wade, would you still vote for him?
I do not have a litmus test for any issue because I think it's detrimental to our justice system.
So if you were fine with everything else, the answer would be yes, correct? No, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Yes. One last thing. You also mentioned when Marjorie asked you a question about offshore drilling, you said, I want to think about it a little more. Charlie Baker's against it, Republican. The whole congressional delegation, where are you?
I'm for energy exploration, but if the local people, if our elected officials don't want it, then I agree.
Well, you'd be one of them. Would you want it or would you not want it?
Well, no. I mean, no. If you work with people and you say, what's right, what do you have for issues, what are your concerns? And if the majority of our governor, of our elected officials say, we have concerns about this, absolutely. But, you have to understand what the issue is. And I would hope that the White House, just like in Florida, where, Governor Rick Scott said, you know what, I don't want some of that. And they said, okay. So I'd be in that same boat.
But if he went ahead, you would vote yes or no on an issue of offshore drilling off the coast of Massachusetts?
Well, if the majority, what's right for Massachusetts, if it's no, my vote is no.
Good to see you, Beth Lindstrom. Good luck on September 4th. Appreciate your time. And join us for the rest of Debate Week here in Greater Boston. Tomorrow we spotlight the Secretary of State race between Josh Zakim and incumbent Bill Galvin. They'll debate. Then Wednesday, U.S. Congressman Michael Capuano versus challenger Ayanna Pressley in their final debate as they vie for the 7th District seat. And on Thursday, the two Democrats going for Governor Charlie Baker's seat, Bob Massey and Jay Gonzalez, in their final debate before the September 4th primary. We hope you'll join us for all of it.